So I'm going to talk about interesting plants made while searching for and serving alpine club moss in counties Galway and Mayo as part of the BSBI Ireland Officer's job. And as we are partly funded by National Parks and Wildlife Service, we have to survey 3 club moss sites each year. And this year I did 5 because 2 were brought forward from last year because they couldn't be surveyed because of travel restrictions. And this is it. This is the plant, the alpine club moss, which I was looking for. So just by pure chance, I ended up booking accommodation for the hottest week in July. And I visited 3 sites, one up on the Coram Plateau in Mayo, and this is next door to Acho Island. And then I did Man Transter, which is on the Galway Mayo border. And then I did Ben Cúna, which is next door to Carmore Abbey in County Galway. And the first area to visit was the Coram Plateau, and this was sort of really nice because it was nice, easy walking. And the first alpine plant I found was the fir club moss. And this was new, or the first record for the hectare since the 1950s. What seemed really surprising is I reckon while I was up there, I saw about 500 plants, and I don't think I ever lost sight of it all day. It just seemed to be there. and I started at the west end of the mountain and headed up for the second highest summit of the plateau at 524 meters. And this was really nice. It had all this white rock. It was very different, and you had the unexpected, because it was thrift. We were right up on the top, and I've never seen it grow on the top of a mountain before, but it's really nice because you could stand on a coastal plant on top of a mountain and see the sea at the same time. So I really got a lot of pleasure out of that. And then one of the plants that really surprised me was this Dwarf Willow, because it was really common, and I saw a lot of it over the 3 days I was up in the mountains. And this was the first record for the hectares also since the 1950s, and it's listed as near threatened in the vascular plant red list for Ireland. And I found that hard to believe because it just seemed so abundant that didn't really feel like it was the right listing for it. But it is restricted to only a few sites scattered around Ireland. And as you can see in this picture here, it's flowering. So that's the first time I've ever seen it flowering. And the dwarf willow like to grow in the most dangerous spots. And just the other side of this bit of grey rock is a very steep drop down into this valley. And the willow also grew along all the other steep edges, but it also liked to grow on the flat plateaus. It just grew amongst the rocks and grass in this vast area, as you can see. And this plateau went on for ever and ever and ever, but at least it was flat, so I wasn't tired while I was up there walking. I could just wander around all day looking for the club moss without finding it, just having a few sheep keep me company. But what the beauty was, once I got that high up, I was above the zone of the midges and the horseflies, because they gave me hell trying to walk up. And at the end of the day, I thought, I'm next door to Acho Island, I must just pop over to Acho Island. While I was there, I found this blue-eyed grass on a road verge, which I'd actually walked along 2 years ago. And this was the 4th record for Mayo and the first for Acho Island. So that was a really nice finish to the day. And I took a day's break, and then I went up Man Transter. And this was the hottest day of the week. It was about 32 degrees all day. And I had asked other Bostoners if they wanted to come with me, but they all said it was too hot to go walking, so I had to go on my own. And while I was up there, I had lots of floating burries, and this was new for the hectare, and it was in quite a lot of the pools. And what's even more interesting, it was the first Sparganium recorded for the hectare since the 1950s. And I did eventually find the alpine club moss, and that's these little green things that look like little conifer trees, but they're only about perhaps 3 centimeters tall at the most. And the habitat never changed while I was up there. And I walked about 20 kilometers that day. So I had no idea where to look for the club moss, apart from the grid reference I was given. And they were usually out by about 400 meters. So they weren't great for how can we find the plant. And I eventually found the club moss growing along this bank. It was a slightly raised bank, so most of the club mosses were on the north-facing slope, and it stretched for 66 meters, over 2 meters, with 225 plants altogether. And again, I had the Dwarf Willow, and that was the first hectare record since the 1990s. And it took me another 4 hours before I came to the next site for the Alpine Clubmoss. And this time it was only growing over an area 8 metres by 1.5 metres, and there was 51 plants in total. And being who I am, I was really excited to think I'd walked or seen the Alpine Clubmoss in 2 counties in one day, because I'm now in Galway in this picture. And the clubmoss was growing in areas that obviously were once covered in deep peats. You can just see the peat remains of some of the peat mounds here, and they were about 1 metre deep, and the erosion over time must have been very bad. And I'm not really a bird, but I do like looking at other wildlife, and this golden plover gave me so much grief trying to work out what it was, because I've typed all these names into Google, and I thought, no, it's not that bird. And I just keep thinking, what bird lives at the top of a mountain? And I eventually came up with golden plover, and this was the new bird for my lifetime list. There's about 50 or more pairs up there, because they just made a lot of fuss, because they obviously didn't like me walking up there. And on the way down, I think this fox seemed more surprised to see me, because it was probably on its way up to go and eat some golden plover. And species like the fox and the golden plover, I like to feel like I'm doing a bit more recording than just plants all the time. So I always submit all my other records to the National Biodiversity Data Centre in Waterford. And these are submitted via their online recording form. And I decided it would be nice to have another day in the mountain. So this time I went up Ben Cooner. Again, I took a day's break. Right up on these very top outcrops on this arm of the mountain, there was all this heath parrowort, and that was new for the hectare, and there was quite a lot of it. And that was the best spot of that mountain, because there was lots of nice plants growing. Then otherwise, most of the mountain was just quite grassy, covered in purple moorgrass. But the plant that was the best find in my mind was this Alpine Medaro. That's these little green leaves that look a bit like shamrock, because it wasn't new for the hectare, but it was new for my lifetime list. So that was just a lovely end as I was coming down the mountain on the Friday, and it was growing in a tiny flush about 5 metres round, and there was quite a few species growing just in that flush I didn't see anywhere else in the mountains while I was up there. So I'd just like to say thank you for listening. And these sheep are eating the heath parrowort probably.